is Histories and Mysteries. I'm one of your hosts, Ashley, and your other host is
Jessica. And on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be talking about some spooky haunted bridges, and I am going to be talking about an equally spooky story, the Black-Eyed Kids.
Yay!
Nervous
I'm
laughter for
excited.
the win.
Yeah, Black-Eyed Kids are super creepy.
It really creeps me out. And I remember listening to the And That's Why We Drink episode, and even the Astonishing Legends episode on Black-Eyed Kids, and holy macaroni, it was spooky. Yeah, and in true Jessica fashion, I was listening to it as I was passing by a cemetery on my drive home from work, so
Of course.
that just added to it. And then I had to let my dog out at 1 a.m. and I was really scared to open my front door and there'd be like a little Black-Eyed Kid there. So
gosh.
we'll see how I sleep tonight, because last night I did not sleep very well because I've watched the last episode of Haunting of Hill House, which
so good.
I know I'm really behind, but I'm like, I don't want to watch it when it's popular. So I decided to binge it this week, and then last night I watched the last episode and I tried to go to bed and I was like so freaked out because I sleep closest to our door and our cat likes to like swing it open as wide as he can.
Oh gosh.
He's a skinny cat and he opens it like the size of a human being. It's such a crazy pants. So I was just like so freaked out because the door was like open more than normal and I just was so scared something was gonna come through.
Oh gosh.
So I did not sleep very well.
Yeah.
So that was fun. So we'll see how I do tonight.
Yeah, good luck.
Yes, thank you.
So my story, as you said, is Haunted Bridges, and it kind of started out because I wanted to do this haunted bridge in Michigan, and where I'm from. And I visited this haunted bridge. Nothing cool happened while I was there. Nothing cool ever happens while I'm anywhere. But so it kind of started out from there, and I kind of just went on a tangent on different haunted bridges. So I have 3 of them tonight.
Woohoo.
Yeah, so we're going to start out with the original one from Michigan, and then we're going to go down to South Carolina, and finally to Texas.
Ooh.
Nestled in a little forest in Algoma Township, Michigan, which, if any of you know Michigan.
Okay, sorry. My hometown, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Shout out. We're in Algoma District.
Oh, cool.
So that's really funny.
Algoma must mean something.
Just thought that was a funny coincidence.
You just scared me like, hey! I was like, oh gosh, what?
Keep me on your toes.
So if any of you know anything about Michigan, Algoma Township is just a little bit north of Grand Rapids, up by the Rockford, Cedar Springs area. And sitting up here is a very unassuming bridge. It's a flat metal, there's no side railings. It's relatively small and close to the ground. Just something to kind of get you over a small amount of water. I mean, you can go underneath it, like there's enough room to go underneath it, but it's not by anything magnificent. Like I said, it's very unassuming. Doesn't strike much fear into the hearts of any man. That is until you learn of its dark, sinister past. So, during the mid-1800s, the small area of what is now known as Algoma Township started having children disappear. They were just randomly disappearing. And none of the townspeople could figure out what was going on. So they did what anyone during that time did, and they turned to the church, obviously. And when they were at the church praying, one person there who asked to preach was, and I think it's pronounced Elias, E-L-I-A-S. Elias Frisk.
Right? E-L-I-A-S?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Elias.
Yeah, that makes more sense than Ilias. Elias was an older man who was known for his fondness of children and his sweet and gentle nature.
Oh, I thought that was gonna go a different way.
No, like liking, like not in a creepy sexual way.
Oh, that's so funny. Just like the way you started, I'm like, oh no, this is going a weird way. Oh dear. Sorry, continue.
No, you're fine. He prayed with the townspeople, asking God to help them find their children, or at least stop whatever was taking them. And he kind of turned into a little bit of a hell and brimfire, hell and brimstone,
Yeah.
brimfire. I'm Jessica today.
It's usually fire and brimstone, I think.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Welcome to my life.
I can't say names, can't think of right sayings.
Just like last week when I had issues saying Robin.
Robert.
Oh dear.
Oh goodness. Okay. A fire and brimstone type preaching where he said that demons were waiting on the outskirts of the village and they were the entities taking the village children and that they needed to pray and repent for the demons to go away. But the village decided to create a search party and head into the woods to find the missing children. But everyone agreed that because Elias was a little bit older, a little bit more frail, he shouldn't go on the search party. So he would stay back with all of the children. And so one by one, each adult left the village in search of the missing little ones. While they were gone, Elias had the children tie themselves to each other in a straight line so that no other child might go missing, and led them into the woods to have a picnic as he had promised the adults he would. His thought was that if the adults were out on the search party and they did find the kids and they had to bring the bodies back, he didn't want the other kids to be there when they were bringing dead bodies back.
But like, weren't the adults going into the woods or?
Yeah, they went in different directions.
Okay, because like this is just okay.
Yeah, sorry, they went in different directions. So the adults were searching one way, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna take them this way.
Okay,
the kids this way. So we're in a different direction."
Okay, that makes more sense. I'm like,
yeah, sorry.
No, that's probably honestly just my weird brain. I'm like, there's only one direction you can go.
Only north.
There's never a south. There's no west. There's no east. Just one direction.
Just one.
Oh man. Okay. Keep going.
So once Elias reached his destination with all the children in tow, so he had like a little tugging line that he had, and then he had all the little children tied up, like not tied up, but tied together. So once they reached the destination, the children started to smell a really foul stench in the air. But Elias just continued his business, tying the chain of the children to a nearby tree. Once he was finished tying them to the tree, he moved over to a patch of leaves on the grounds and began to push the dirt and leaves aside. As he did so, he uncovered the skinned and rotting bodies of the other missing children. The alive children began to panic and scream, but the adults were too far away to hear them. One by one, Elias butchered the children and then threw their remaining body parts into the river.
Oh my goodness! So it was right about him.
Yeah, so it was a little bit creepy, his fondness for children, but I didn't want to give it away.
Good. That was better.
So once he finished dismembering the children and throwing them into the river, he took off into the woods to escape his fate. Later that night, the adults returned to the village, only to realize that everyone was still gone. They began to panic, and so they did, the natural thing, and headed back out into the woods into the area that Elias said he would be to see, what was going on.
Yeah.
Once there, they found the mutilated bodies in the river and a path of muddy footprints leading away from the gruesome scene. They followed the trail, and they found a bloody Elias hiding in the bushes. They dragged him back to the site of the murders and used the rope he had used to tie the children to create his noose.
Good.
Legend says that he was hanged over the bridge, and once he was dead, the river swelled up and took his body away, never to be seen again.
Good.
Yes.
Little demon man.
Yeah, so this is the story of the Hell's Bridge. Now, it's supposedly extremely haunted with most of the activity taking place closer to midnight. Um, some even say that you can hear the devil's laughter right at midnight. People who visit the area say they can hear children screaming, children laughter, and those who tube down the river, because I don't know about other places, but in Michigan, tubing is a really big pastime in the summer. So those who tube down the river say that they can feel hands pulling at their hands and legs under the
Ugh,
water.
gross.
Yeah. Are pretty awful.
Oh.
So like I said, I went there because I'm from Grand Rapids, so it was like maybe a 30-40 minute drive. And we took 2 cars and we went to this bridge, and it is like you park in this kind of pull off, and then you have to walk through some woods to get there. And as I've said before, I don't like messing with real things, so I was terrified. It is kind of eerie. I don't know, I don't know. And it was probably because I was young and I was scared, but it just felt different, but we didn't hear or see anything. However, when we were walking back to our car, we heard a thud, and then we heard tires squeal. And when we got back, some, I'm sure, dumb kids had thrown a dead something, some dead kind of roadkill
Ew.
on the hood of our car.
Ew.
Yeah. So there was blood on our windshield as we're leaving this place. It was pretty creepy.
No doubt.
Yeah. So it was just an all around creepy thing. But like I said, I didn't hear anything. And if you look further into the legend, there was a Frisk family, but they didn't get there until around 1910, and the story supposedly happens in the 1800s. And there wasn't anyone named Elias Frisk. However, obviously people go by nicknames and stuff, so that could have been the case.
Yeah.
And the story could have just gotten the year wrong. But any case, that's the story of Hell's Bridge. So we're going to move to South Carolina now.
Okay.
Which is another state that I used to live in, but it just had a cool bridge that I wanted to talk about. So, this bridge is called Poinsett Bridge. I should have looked up how to say that. Dang it. Hang on. I always do this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come back to this and look it up, and then I never do. So this bridge is called Poinsett Bridge, and it's located in Greenville, South Carolina, which is kind of northern South Carolina. It's actually a really pretty bridge if you look it up. It's made completely of rock, and then underneath it has like a 15-foot Gothic arch. Yeah, it's really gorgeous. It's one of the oldest bridges in South Carolina, but it's also said to be one of the most haunted places in South Carolina. And there are several stories behind this that could possibly explain the hauntings. One such story is that this bridge is built on a Native American burial ground.
Ooh, yeah, that's creepy. I just looked it up.
Yeah. It's really a pretty bridge, but yeah, it does have that kind of air of creepiness to it.
It doesn't even look like a bridge. It's so small.
Yeah. They believe that it would be a Cherokee burial ground since they were the only inhabitants in that area until obviously the European settlers came over. And the story goes that the Cherokee tribe had a burial mound that was destroyed when the Europeans started creating the state road and with it the bridge. However, this part of the story has kind of been debunked because most Cherokees were buried underneath or near their houses. They weren't buried out in the open. However, if they were to be buried outside, there was a structure that they would build, and the structure that they built was kind of similar to what the bridge looks like. So kind of an interesting little coincidence maybe, or not. Another story says, and I think this one's probably a little bit more true, is that many of the workers died while working on this bridge. And to save time and money and to kind of memorialize, and I'm using air quotes on this, memorialize the hard workers, they just enclosed the dead bodies within the bridge.
Oh.
Yeah. So one of these causes of death was malaria. And apparently many of the workers had arrived to build a bridge from previously working on canals on the East Coast where they had caught malaria and brought it with them. So obviously that kind of spreads like wildfire. So a lot of them perished from malaria, and several other workers died from just regular, flus and colds. And this is the 1800s, or
Witches.
yeah, witches. So, I mean, obviously back then, like, everything killed people. Like, if you get a little sniffle and you're dead. And during the first 3 to 4 weeks of working, almost 40 to 50 workers were hospitalized from these various illnesses.
Wow.
Yeah. And they also said the river that they were building the bridge over would rise and fall, taking many of the workers with it. So again, these souls were laid to rest within the bridge, not the ones that were carried away by the river, but the other ones that died. And they say they still haunt it to this day because that's where their bodies are trapped. They're trapped in a bridge.
Yeah.
The last story of this bridge is kind of one of the worst, I think. It has to do with a murdered slave and comes from one of two stories, both which are equally awful. But one story states that a young woman was hanged under the bridge, and another one says that a young man was beheaded by the bridge. Both of them they think were runaway slaves, but they don't have much other information on that.
Mm-hmm.
But paranormal enthusiasts say that you can see red and white lights around the bridge, but there's not any like satellites in the area or satellite towers or neighborhoods to give off light. They also say you can hear people walking around them in hushed voices. Many onlookers have been unable to start their car once they're ready to leave. So, like, you can park at the bridge and kind of like do whatever it is you're going to do, probably like a good makeout point or whatever. And then they can't start their cars again.
Mm-hmm.
They also say that there's a bright white light that comes towards them, and once it gets close enough, you can hear a scream from it, and then it disappears.
Gross.
One story said that from a guy, this is a quote, "About 4 years ago, I drove my neighbor, her boyfriend at the time, and one of their friends up there and parked across the road. As soon as I shut off the engine and rolled down the windows, we could hear movement all around us. I had my hand resting on the door when I felt a man's rough hand and fingers grab onto mine."
Ew.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
Nope. Ghost Hunters and Ghost Paranormal Research Organization, aka Ghost Pro, visited the area, and they said out of the 400 pictures they took, about 100 had some sort of phenomena in them. They captured tons of orbs, a large man-sized mist in one of their photos, just really creepy things. So
don't like that.
yeah, so that's like a super creepy, super haunted bridge. But I have saved the best bridge for last. It's found in Denton, Texas. Oh, and once again, I forgot to say my sources, but I remembered it because I got this story. So this is in Denton, Texas, and I got it from a website called We Denton Do It. I liked it.
Nice.
The other two sources I used were Travelers Rest Here and Animalian. It's ANOM and then the word alien. So Animalian.
Cool.
Yeah. So, okay. Denton. It's in Denton, Texas. Okay. So this bridge was built in 1884 and it's said to be haunted by a man named Oscar Washburn. His haunting didn't take place until the 1930s when he was living in the area as a goat farmer, and he was well known in the town. He had really quality goat products, so goat milk, cheese, meat, hides, and he prided himself on his work, and it showed because it was of good quality and he had a really good reputation. And so to market it better, he placed a sign on the Old Alton Bridge stating "This way to the Goat Man," which I think is cute. This way to the Goat Man, I'm the Goat Man, you know.
Yeah.
But reportedly, this infuriated the local KKK because, you know, person of color getting ahead makes them really mad.
Yep. Why wouldn't it?
Right? How dare he? And so one night, again in the 1930s, the KKK had had enough with his success. Damn him! So they formed a lynch mob and dragged poor Oscar out of his house and onto the bridge, where they tied a noose around his neck and threw him from the top. Legends say that as the KKK cluckers looked at their handiwork, nothing was there but an empty rope. So Oscar and his body was nowhere to be found.
Oh.
Yeah. The chicken people assumed that he had somehow made it back to his home. Maybe the rope broke or, he slipped out or something. So they just assumed he went back to his house.
Did you just say the chicken people?
I was hoping you would catch that. So,
What in the world?
it's the KKK clan or the Ku Klux Klan, and
Yeah.
they call them like the what do they call them? Like the KKK Klansmen or whatever. So then I wrote in the KKK Cluckers because it made me giggle. And then I just changed it to the chicken people.
I was wondering where the heck that came from. I'm like, I haven't heard it before. She hasn't mentioned the name yet.
Yeah, I was gonna explain it at the end if you didn't call it out, but yeah.
Oh no, that hit me, and I'm like,
Yeah, I just slowly started calling them more and more chicken type things. So the chicken people assumed that he had somehow made it back to the home. So they unfortunately went there and set it ablaze with his wife and children inside. So no one knows whether Oscar was in there or not, or if they just murdered his wife and family.
which is horrible.
Yeah. But no one ever heard or saw from Oscar or his family again. But according to the tale, he still resides near the bridge to torment whoever summons him.
Good, he better.
Yeah. And apparently you can summon him by knocking on the bridge 3 times, or you can turn your car lights off and honk your horn 3 times, and that summons him. And I don't know why you would want to, but you can. And if you have any Clucker blood in you, Ku Klux Klan blood in you, or if you're a descendant from a slave owner, it's said that he drags you off into the woods where he seeks his revenge.
Ugh.
Um,
That's not fair. Because what if they just because they have chicken blood in them doesn't mean that they're bad.
He doesn't care. He's a vengeful ghost, Jessica.
I guess so.
There's another story that goes with this bridge too that kind of also backs up the goat bridge type claim. And this one's really creepy and I like it, but it doesn't have as much information, obviously, but it dates back to 1860, where a group of cowboys lynched a Creole slave goat herder named Jack Kendall.
Mm-hmm.
He was apparently running away when he was caught and hanged, but it was done so terribly. They didn't hang him correctly, that his body actually separated from his head.
Ugh.
Yeah. And so legend says that powered by voodoo, the body rose from the mud, headless, walked over to a nearby goat, detached the goat's head, and used it as its own.
Ew.
Yeah, so that's another little way that you get the goat man. And they say, obviously, you can summon Oscar. They said he also comes with a smell of decaying flesh. But other people say they have seen unholy glowing eyes near the bridge, a large snarling goat-headed man, so that could be Jack Kendall.
Mm-hmm.
Or they also say that they see a maniacal satyr carrying the heads of goats or humans with them. And like I said, it's said that the spirit will pull those with bloodlines of the Klansmen or slave owners into the woods and exact their revenge.
Dun, dun, dun.
Did I miss anything good? Do you know anything else?
No, that was pretty good. And it's just like when the Ghost Adventure guys did it, like I think Zach got possessed and stuff, but you know
Of course he did.
of course, it could be fake. Who knows, right?
I cannot. I can't take him or that show seriously ever since, and That's Why We Drink.
Oh, I can't. I haven't watched the show in forever. Like, it's ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, he's too ridiculous.
He's too over the top.
He's two. Like, he's just two.
It's
TOO2.
Yeah, cool.
So, that's my stories of haunted bridges.
Woo-hoo! Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. I think haunted bridges are extra creepy just because bridges are in themselves are kind of creepy.
They are, yes.
Because you always have that, you know, possibility of like driving over them and dying or whatever.
Yeah.
So, did you ever watch that? I think it was like a made for TV Disney movie called Susie Q.
No.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. It had Kimberly Jo Johnson in it, the pink Power Ranger. Remember her?
No.
Did you not watch Power Rangers?
Not enough that I would remember it.
I'm so disappointed in you right now. So anyway, the movie Susie Q is she's like getting ready for homecoming. And correct me if I'm wrong, others out there, but I think she crashes over a bridge. And she dies. And she dies to the song, "Oh, Susie Q, how I love you, my Susie." You know that song?
The movie? No, I don't know that song.
What is wrong with you, Jessica?
I don't know. I was a 90s kid. What do you want from me?
So was I. We're the same age. Oh, no, you're younger than me.
I'm like, no, I'm not.
We just had this conversation.
Yes, where you said, how did I not know you were almost 27? And I said, I have told you many times you have a terrible memory.
My memory is shit.
Which has been proved right now.
Well, anyway, so she comes back and like haunts and tries to like finish her unfinished business, but I think the whole scene ends with her like her spirit on a bridge or whatever. So
Oh, fun.
yeah,
You were born in the 80s.
It was 86.
Okay, you're not a 90s baby.
I was a 90s kid.
I honestly like prefer the music from the 60s to 80s. So
yeah, those are good. That's good times. I like all decades of music. There isn't really
I don't like today's music as much, but
I like today's music. I'm not a huge fan of like, well, no, even those are pretty nostalgic. I was gonna say like 90s, but even those are like nostalgic that kind of bring me back. But anyway, so let's hear about the Black Eyed Kids. More creepiness for the night.
Okay, so my sources, I have Texas Hill Country, Black Eyed Kids legend from Abilene, and the author is Anna Hedges. I have another one from Hatchet Book Group, and the author was Jake. That's all he wanted to be known by.
Just Jake.
Yeah, literally just Jake. He didn't want to be identified by anything else. We have TBS News. The writer was Maria Mosen. I don't know. Thought Catalog and Astonishing Legends.
Ooh.
I really like their podcast. Go listen to it.
Okay.
They do a really good job, and like on the Black Eyed Kids episode they did a 2-parter. Like they go over like really in depth. Like they have some like researchers and stuff for it, so it's really good.
Oh, that's cool.
They're really, really good, and I really like the hosts. So I'm just gonna start by saying that a lot of this is like straight from the horse's mouth, essentially. Like I'm not gonna be paraphrasing because a lot of this is just people's stories. So I'll just include the their usernames and stuff just that they still get some credit, and I'm not stealing it.
Perfect.
But a lot of it is just straight from the source that I got.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with 10 facts about the Black Eyed Kids.
Yes.
So they will look like normal human children between the ages of 6 and 16, but with pale skin and completely black eyes.
That's the scariest age.
Yes, especially the little ones. Additionally, people who have been in close proximity to Black Eyed Kids report feeling a feeling of unease that washed over them. While nothing about the children's appearance, aside from the eyes, generally frightened people, they still reported feeling either anxious or scared at their presence.
Huh.
Some people have also reported seeing black-eyed kids that have talons for feet or other demonic
Ew.
attributes. Yeah, I have never heard that. Have you?
How would you even, like, who's looking at a black-eyed kid that closely to see their
Right?
feet?
But like,
Well, I mean, some people like feet.
it's true. Um, but most sightings, despite this, have been of seemingly normal children. Black-eyed kids are also commonly described as wearing dated clothing or dressing in a manner that is not typical of a normal child their age. So, essentially, the teenagers appear to be wearing clothing described as homemade and just not very nice. And then the
Okay.
smaller children appear to be wearing vintage clothing, like from like different centuries and stuff. And
Interesting.
yeah, so it's kind of like they didn't quite get it right.
They tried their best.
Exactly. Black-eyed kids always ask for something. It is always something that involves being in closed quarters with the other person.
Ew.
Yeah. They will ask for a ride in your vehicle or to enter your home to use the phone or your telegraph.
Well, nowadays, too, everybody has a cell phone. If someone asked me to enter my house to use my phone, I would immediately be suspicious.
Exactly. Like, kid, I don't even have a home phone.
Yeah.
So, no, it's fine. The earliest reported sighting of a black-eyed kid was by journalist Brian Bethel in 1996. The
Ooh.
story has been added to internet creepypasta lore, but to this day, Bethel insists that the incident was real and it happened the way that he reported it.
Okay.
Some people insinuate that because he's a journalist, he just wants to get good reading, good publicity, and so he made this story up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. In 2014, a British paper reported that sightings of black-eyed kids around the world are rising.
Ew, no.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
Theories about the black-eyed kids are that they are vampires, aliens, or of demonic origin.
Ew.
Do you know like anything about them before we kind of get more into it, or?
Basically, just what you have said is all I know about them, and that's it.
Yeah. So, do you have a theory on what they are, or?
I think the only other time I've heard about them is from the And That's Why We Drink podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But after I listened to theirs, I feel like I thought it was more alien-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But I think personally that demons and vampires are scarier, so I'd like it to be one of those.
Yeah, like I based off of things that I've heard, my theory is more towards the whole alien aspect as well. Like how they could just kind of like come down to like observe and they just don't quite get it right. Like with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
outdated clothing and like the way that the kids talk, right? And it's like, can we use your telegraph? Like,
Yeah.
really?
Well, and you think about too, like, our scientists that would possibly be the ones, like, if we were to ever, man a mission and they had to observe, like, they're probably the ones that aren't going to be up on the latest trends and stuff. So it's probably the same for them.
Yeah. So I don't know, but like the whole vampire thing is kind of also interesting because you know how they have to ask to be let in and they can't enter until you say yes kind of thing. So
Well, and maybe the aliens were watching old shows and saw that and thought that was a human trait that they have to be asked to enter.
yeah, exactly. So they like we'd kind of discussed like they might knock on your door on a late night. Like a lot of stories are basically like when it's vulnerable outside, like so it's snowing and they're just wearing like not clothes appropriate for the weather and just trying to get on your vulnerable side, I guess, like so you can feel sympathy for them and let them in.
Yeah, I could see that.
They approach your car when you're waiting at a signal or at a gas station and it might seem like they need help or they like might just stand there for no reason. Like they just stand and stare.
Cool.
Yeah. They don't look threatening, and they want to get into your house or your car, so they just kind of like really want to be in closed quarters with you. They'll be very persistent, and if you say no, they just kept getting angrier and angrier. And then you'll notice people usually then start to notice their eyes. They're pure black from lid to lid. They have no sclera, nothing, and it just like you get like this
Ugh.
bone chilling fear wash over you.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Don't like that at all.
No. So no one knows where or how these creatures popped up. Conspiracy theorists believe that they are aliens trying to reach out to their Earth. Demonologists believe that they're children of the devil himself, and if you let them in, you are allowing the devil to enter your life.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like allowing the devil to enter your life can't be like a trick, though.
No.
You know, like you have to purposely know what you're doing. It can't be like,
Exactly.
you know,
Like,
oh,
it's all about
gotcha, I'm the devil.
sinning, right? It's all about sinning. And like, if you're letting these poor defenseless children into your house, it's not sinning, that's being helpful.
Right.
So, but they essentially just like want to be able to reach their parents. Like they'll say, we need to use your phone because we need to call our parents, or you know, like we need a ride somewhere because our parents like aren't available, kind of thing. So it's just like really creepy. So I'm gonna get into the earliest reported story.
Okay.
So, like I said, it was by a journalist named Brian Bethel, from Abilene, Texas, in 1996. In his report, he describes a late evening out in his vehicle. He had stopped in a parking lot near a movie theater to write a check. He was so absorbed in this that he didn't notice two young boys approach his car. He didn't notice until the older boy tapped on the driver's side window.
Okay, first of all, I don't like that. Anybody that taps on my window scares the shit out of me.
And this is late at night too. Like it's dark out. Like he's writing the check in his car by the light of a street light.
Yeah, not a fan of that.
Yeah, so it's just creepy to begin with, right?
Yeah.
He then rolled down his window and he immediately noted a soul-racking fear rush through his body. And he obviously didn't understand why, because it was just these two little boys, right?
Yeah. Why would you be afraid of two little boys?
Yeah. The oldest boy said that he and his brother just wanted to watch a movie, but they had forgotten their money at home, and could Bethel give them a ride?
What? No.
They wanted a ride so they could go home and get their money.
Absolutely not. Figure it out, kids. Bye.
These boys assured him that it wouldn't take long. They were just two kids and that they didn't have a gun.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't even ask, but now.
Exactly. He found the assurances unnerving and noted that the last showing of the film that they wanted to see had already started and would be nearly over by the time he could drive them anywhere and get back. The movie was Mortal Kombat, by the way.
Ooh.
So, haven't seen it.
I think I saw parts of it. It's real cheesy.
Yeah, and I think it had been out for a while too, so it was like at the Dollar Theater, so it was just
Gotcha.
But anyway, so the boys started getting really irritated and frustrated with him, saying things like, "We can't come in until you say we can."
Oh.
Bethel stated he went into some sort of a trance, and his hand was moving closer and closer to the door handle to let them into his car, until he made eye contact with them. His fear became all-encompassing, and it wasn't until he broke eye contact that their eyes became completely blacked out, and he broke from his trance and moved his hand away from the door handle.
No, thank you.
Yeah, but at least he like broke out of it, right?
Yeah.
After he broke out of his trance, he tore out of the parking lot and just like pieced the F out.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, he looked back just to like look at the boys one last time, and no one was on the sidewalk. So they were
Oh, no.
completely gone. Like there is literally nowhere that they could have gone in that amount of time where he wouldn't have seen them. But when he looked back, they were gone.
Oh no.
And to
Don't
this
like
day,
that.
he still stands by his story.
I don't like any of that.
No. No, it's gross. I don't like it at all.
Oh.
I have a bunch of stories, so hold on to your pants.
Oh gosh.
They just keep getting creepier and creepier too, so.
Perfect.
Another story goes like this. In the snowy town within the like in the middle of nowhere of Vermont, an elderly couple heard the sound of 3 loud knocks on their door. They opened the door and saw 2 children, a boy and a girl. They said, "Our parents will be here soon. May we come in?"
No, thank you.
The children did not make eye contact and just stood there in the doorway. The elderly couple were hesitant, but after a while they let the boy and girl inside.
No elderly couple.
And this is like one of those rare instances where somebody has let them in the house, which isn't good.
Mm.
The kids settled on the couch while the wife made some hot chocolate and the husband asked some questions that went unanswered. The wife returned and noticed that her cat was scared and angry with the children. They then said, "May we please use the restroom?" The
Like
wife,
together?
yep.
No.
The wife looked at the kids and she finally saw them. The children's eyes were as black as a starless universe. She directed them to the bathroom and returned to her husband, who was covering his face with his hand. She said, "Did you see her? Did you see their eyes?" The husband then showed her his hand, which was full of blood from a nosebleed.
Oh no, those poor nice little couple.
Yeah. The power suddenly went out and the house turned as dark as the kids' eyes.
Ooh.
The wife headed to the restroom and was confronted by the voice of the kids at the end of the hall uttering, "Our parents are here."
Oh my gosh.
The kids then exited the house, leaving the door wide open. The wife then noticed that there were 2 men at the end of the driveway. The men were very tall and slender. The wife waved at them, but did not receive the same friendly gesture. The 2 men and the children then drove away together in one car. Throughout the night, after the power came back on, once the kids left, the elderly couple were just left home alone. Throughout the next week, weird things kept happening in the house. 3 out of 4 cats went missing, and the 4th had been found dead in the pool of its own blood.
Oh my gosh.
The husband continued to have nosebleeds and finally went to the doctor, where he was diagnosed with very aggressive skin cancer.
Oh gosh.
Nowadays, people still claim to see the black-eyed kids when driving late at night down an empty road, or outside of their window late at night, or even lurking in the shadows of their room. Many people have reported seeing the black-eyed kids standing in the corner of their room during their episodes of sleep paralysis, or even waking up in the middle of the night because they sensed someone was watching them.
Now wait a minute. I thought they couldn't come in unless you invited them. What are they doing in the rooms?
I don't know. Well, I think it's like, it's kind of the whole thing. Like, if you see them once, you see them a lot. Like, they just keep showing up. Like, they're more prone to come back to you, I think, after you've already seen them. Yeah. So, super creepy, right?
Don't like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because it kind of makes sense again with the alien explanation, because if they're made of something that we're not used to that's kind of cancer causing, it makes sense that he would get this aggressive form of skin cancer and the cats died and
yeah. So, super spooky. I hate it.
wow. Okay,
So-
tell me another.
Okay. I have a few. So All right, so this next one, I think this was from the guy named Jake. He basically embarked on a quest to disprove that they existed, like to prove that they weren't even scary things, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he began doing like a lot of research online, paranormal sites, scary videos on YouTube, and just gathered everything, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
He then began putting up an anonymous ad on Craigslist. It read, "Black Eyed Kids, I am not afraid of you. I want to meet you 9 p.m. Wednesday. The park bench on the corner of 3rd and Washington. Show me why I'm wrong and I should be afraid." So, that was stupid.
He's that stupid guy you see in the movies that you're like, stop it, no!
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you doing?
You're just asking for it, literally.
Yeah. So, the bench was only a block from his apartment, so every Wednesday he would walk down there and see if anyone or anything came by. He usually wouldn't sit there, but he'd stand back and watch because, he's not stupid.
Yeah.
um
Well, I
yeah.
mean, I guess.
Yeah, he said, "I may not be afraid for black-eyed kids, but I know the internet can attract some nutty people," and it did. Okay.
Oh gosh.
So, nothing exciting enough to write about. Just a couple of pervs and some teenage kids joking around. So this went on for 6 months, and then he stopped posting the ad. The week he stopped, he got a knock on his door.
No.
He said, "I was sitting on my couch and it was a little after 9 p.m. I don't know how to explain it, but the second I heard that knock, my skin went ice cold. I didn't need to get up. I knew who it was, and much to my surprise, I was terrified already. I was wrong about not being afraid of black-eyed kids. The fear is on a different level, an instinctual, primal level." But I still managed to get up and open the door, and yes, there was a kid about 9 years old. He had olive skin, dark hair, solid black eyes, and they were staring up at me.
I thought you said he had all of his skin. And I was like, well, I would hope so.
Olive colored skin.
I gotcha.
So he stared up at him and said, "Can I come in?"
No.
I was speechless. After what seemed like an eternity, I responded with a no, and I began closing the door. "We missed you at the park tonight," the boy said. I stopped closing the door. I looked at him, my mind racing. "They've been watching me." The boy smiled up at me. It took everything I had to make my arm move again, pushing the door closed and locking it. As soon as I shut the door, I gasped for air. I hadn't been breathing. I sat back against my wall, facing the door. Knock, knock, knock. He was still there. I waited. Nothing. Oh, yes. Okay, are you ready for more?
Yes.
Okay. So this one is from No Sleep 2012.
Yeah, I bet. No sleep.
The title is called Midnight Caller. I almost felt like a dream. I woke up to my dog Lucy barking. She was upright on the bed where my husband and I were sleeping with our 22-month-old daughter, staring at our
That's terrifying. I've had that happen a couple times where, like, in the middle of the night, one time, oh my gosh, I still to this day don't know what it was, but I had this really sweet golden retriever that, like, I mean, golden retrievers are goobers, right?
Yeah.
Sweetest boy. And my boyfriend and I were sleeping, and it was like late at the night, like maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, and all of a sudden he just starts this deep growling towards the front of the room.
Oh.
And so my boyfriend got up, and he was a police officer, so he got up, had his gun and was walking around his house, and nothing was there, but it was terrifying. When dogs react like that in the middle of the night, it is terrifying.
It is terrifying. I don't like that.
No.
My mom, my dog, at my mom's house, he likes to growl at nothing. So I don't blame my mother for ignoring him this time.
Yeah.
But he woke up in the middle of the night and was growling, and she's like, Hugo, be quiet, like go back to
Yeah.
sleep, because he's just like this tiny little shih tzu, like
He's so tough.
yeah, exactly. So he's like this tough little boy. But she woke up in the morning and her car had been ransacked, so
Oh gosh.
yeah, like everything was fine, but it was just
Yeah.
funny. It's like the one time. But it's like the dog that cried wolf, right? Like he just
Yeah. Yeah.
all the time at nothing. So it's like, of course it's one time. Like
Yeah, of course.
little brat.
His little man syndrome.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, he's so funny. He's just this old man. He's an oldie, but he's a sweetheart. So okay. So
Sorry, yeah.
I thought my dog was just freaking out over a house noise. We had only had her for 3 months and she was still a puppy. It could have been anything. Our roommate, a creak from the house settling, the awnings moving outside in the breeze. I wasn't too concerned. I decided the best bet would be to open the door and show her nothing was there. It sounds a bit silly, but it's what we go do with our daughter when she gets scared, and I figured it should work with my puppy too.
I like how he's doing parenting to his from daughter to dog.
Exactly. It's good parenting though. I opened the door and she raced to the front door. She stood there, snarling at the door. It was an angry, violent growl, one that I had never heard her make before. I looked groggily at her and opened the baby gate, blocking the doorway, planning to open the door and show her everything was okay. The second my hand reached for the deadbolt, Lucy went wild. She started barking and jumped toward me, and when I touched the metal, she suddenly changed her temper. She whimpered, almost like she was afraid, and backing down. As her mannerism changed, so did mine. I wasn't calm anymore.
Oh,
My heart
poor baby.
My heart was racing and sinking at the same time. I had been flooded with a mixture of fear and dread. I looked through the peephole. I can't explain why I looked, but I did. Outside were 2 kids. One was just a little shorter than me and didn't look much younger. I'm 21 and she looked to be 16 or 17. She was slender and pale. Her hair was a light shade of honey blonde and she wore it long, about mid-back, with long, thin, blunt bangs in the front that covered most of her eyes. She wore jeans, a light wash that's popular right now, and a thin-looking olive-colored pullover-style hoodie. She held the hand of a small girl who looked to be around 3 or 4 in the same style jeans and a button-down ivory cardigan. The smaller one looked at the floor shyly but had the same shade of hair tied back in a ponytail. She held a stuffed toy under her free arm, and it was identical to one my daughter has, as was their style of dress.
No.
Yeah. Had it not been for the feeling of overwhelming dread and fear, I probably would have asked these children in and given them some tea or hot chocolate to get them out of the bitter cold. Something about them seemed off, though, and at this point, I hadn't made any noise. I hadn't shushed the dog or grumbled, nothing. I hadn't turned on any lights. These kids had no indicators I was at the door. The older one spoke. She had a voice that was mature, confident, strong, and accentless. She held her head tilted downward, and I couldn't see her eyes. She said, "We have to use the phone." I stood frozen in fear. How did she know I was there? She raised her head to face me directly, and that's when I saw her eyes. There was a reason I couldn't see through her bangs before. They were black. She said, "Our mother is worried."
Well, you best get home to her then.
Yeah.
Creepy kid.
As someone who has always been interested in creepy stories, I knew what she was the second she looked at me through the door. I have never been one to believe in these things. As a staunch atheist and skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, I had written off many a ghost story from friends and family members eager to tell their tale. I didn't believe it. Still, I couldn't rationalize my way out of this. I was standing with nothing but a thin wooden door between me and a black-eyed kid. There was no questioning what was right in front of me. I didn't answer her, and slowly and silently I backed away from the door, my dog still cowering at my ankles. She kept talking. "Just let us in to use your telephone."
Ugh.
I took another step back, and with that step, the tone changed. At first, she seemed polite. When I took that second step back, she became commanding, almost hostile. "We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have broken in. I'll ask again. May we come in and use your phone?" Lucy snarled at the door, and I inched backward, though something inside me seemed to be slowly pulling me back towards the door. It wasn't a physical pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in. I got to my room, covered up the window, locked the door, and sat there in the dim light of the nightlight. I heard her call me back to the door once more, and then quiet. I didn't go back to sleep that night, and I haven't slept right since. I know from reading about them that BEKs can't just come in without permission. I know they haven't hurt anyone, but I still fear I'll be the exception. When I told my husband, he said it was just a dream. He keeps telling me to forget it, but this lingering feeling of sadness, the dread when the house is silent at night, this fear of a knock at the door tells me otherwise.
Well, and I feel like if you think about it from their point of view, if they are like trying to do research or whatever and no one will let them in, they're probably getting so annoyed. So when he walked back, she's like, "We're not going to hurt you. Damn it, let us in."
Oh, I know. It's so creepy. All right. You ready for a couple more?
Yes.
Okay. I have 3 more stories, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome.
Okay. So the next one, the username is Big Taco 123.
Yes.
Titled, "You Must Let Me In." On March 17th, 2008, I had my one and only encounter with a black-eyed kid. Before my experience, I never heard of anything having to do with the black-eyed kids. I was 12. I was sitting outside of a hairdresser's in an old Chevy pickup waiting for my mom to get her hair cut. About 15 minutes had passed and I saw some kid walking back and forth along the sidewalk in front of my parked car. At first I thought I recognized him as one of my friends from school, so I banged on the front windshield until he looked my way. It wasn't anyone that I knew. At this point, I was not scared at all. Not yet anyways. The boy walked over to the side of my car and just stares. I think to let me get a good look at his eyes, to freak me out. And let me tell you, if you have never seen a black-eyed kid, you have no idea what to imagine. The boy whispers, "You must let me in." And then I locked the car doors and ducked down into the space below the seats. 5 minutes later, he was gone. When my mother got into the car, she told me a boy with black eyes had come into the hairdresser's and insisted for my mother to give him the keys to the car.
No!
She refused.
I hope
Oh
so.
my gosh, isn't that crazy?
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
Ugh. Okay. The next one is from Halloween Warning. The title is Trick or Treat.
I'm loving these usernames.
I am too. So perfect. "Hey man, you better get your Halloween stuff up or that house up the street is going to beat you for best decorations." My neighbor smiled sheepishly and says that he's actually going to keep his house dark this year and just put candy out. I asked if he was going out of town. He said no. Something happened last year that really scared him. Now I was concerned for my own safety because if some weirdos were coming around our neighborhood, which is a pretty safe neighborhood with tons of young families living here. So I asked him what happened. He said last year he had his brother's family over so they could trick or treat in the neighborhood since they live in an apartment complex that doesn't do much for Halloween. He had a bunch of kids come to the door like always. His family took off around 10:30 and there were only a few older trick-or-treaters left. But by 11:30 they were pretty much done. So he was inside watching TV and the doorbell rings. He grabs the candy bowl and heads over, noticing that it's a little past midnight and that's pretty rude for trick-or-treaters to still be out.
Yeah.
But then he notices that he hasn't turned off all his decorations light yet, so his house is still a beacon. He swings the door open and is about to yell "boo" or something to freak them out, but stops dead when he sees the kids at the door. He said one was probably around 13 to 14 and the other around 16 to 17, both boys. They weren't dressed up, but he remembers the older one was wearing a flannel checkered shirt. He was immediately overcome with uneasiness, like opening the door was a huge mistake. They just stared at him, and he noticed that they had really big irises and dilated pupils. He couldn't even see the whites of their eyes, so he figured they were contact lenses.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. It's Halloween.
I'm just going to stop this right now, though. So, in Astonishing Legends, they were mentioning the whole contact lens theory.
Uh-huh.
But to get the contact lenses that would look like that, that would just be pure black are medical grade, and you have to have a specialist put them in your eyes, and they're basically made out of glass, and
Oh,
they are
geez.
thousands of dollars.
Okay.
So they even said, like, I don't think the kids, like these little teenagers, are gonna be walking around with these contact lenses, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
yeah, that was just like one of the theories.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I would think if I saw like a little kid with black eyes. I'd be like, "Oh, it's contacts,"
Yeah, exactly. So
until everything else creepy that happens.
yeah. He was frozen there holding the candy bowl, like he couldn't slam the door in their face as much as he wanted to. So he nervously tried to smile at them, hoping they would break character and ask for candy. The younger one said they had gotten lost and needed to come in and use his phone. That was when he closed the door more than halfway on them and said, "No, sorry." And the older one said something like, "Can we just wait in your house until our parents come get us?"
Gross.
Right? But by then he was convinced that his life was in danger and these kids must be high on something or intending to rob him, and he just kept mumbling, "No, sorry, good night," as he inched the door closed and locked it. He told me he was so scared at that point that they were going to try to break in through one of his windows or something, but he looked through the peephole and they had turned to leave. He watched TV with the volume really low so he could hear any sounds at all, and he said he stayed up till like 5 a.m. because he was too scared to go to bed and drop his guard.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah. The whole time he's telling me this, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this sounds so familiar, just like the Black Eyed Kids urban legend. Then I thought, hey, maybe this dude is trying to scare me because after all, he does have the Halloween spirit. So I'm looking at him incredulously, but trying not to seem too gullible. So I'm like, man, that is really crazy. You sound like the Black Eyed Kids. He just looks at me blankly. The what? Is that a movie or something? And I said no, but told him to go look it up online. About an hour later, I get a knock on my door and immediately almost jump out of my skin thinking it's a demon child.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
It was my neighbor, and his eyes were freaking huge. He swears to me up and down that he had never heard of the Black Eyed Kids before, and it's so similar to what happened to him.
Oh.
Gross, right?
Yeah.
So I have one more story if you're up for it.
Absolutely.
All right. So this one is from Hammer Hands.
Yeah.
The title is No, You Won't Be Calling Anybody.
Mhm.
The incident took place about 13 years ago. I had just moved to a new city with my wife. We were small town newlyweds from the Midwest. We moved cross country to one of the biggest cities in the Southwest so I could attend graduate school. Being naive and new to city living, I habitually answered the door without a second thought. Never again after this.
No.
The first thing that should have tipped me off to the peculiarity of the situation was the fact that someone was knocking at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Ew.
The second thing that should have dawned on me is this kid had to reach over a rather large patio gate. I saw patio gate and unlatch, and I'm like, patio gatch.
Just trying to save time. Put words together.
This kid had to reach over a rather tall patio gate to unlatch and open it. The knock at the door was startling at 6 a.m. My wife and I were getting ready for work, a pretty normal routine. The moment I opened the door, I was overtaken with an inexplicable sense of fear. To this day, I can picture him. Teenager, average height, average build, knee-length black leather coat, short black hair, and sunglasses. The sunglasses at 6 o'clock in the morning struck me as odd. And even odder, he was eating an apple. Don't know why that's odd. He was very polite and asked if he'd come in and warm up. I said no, closed the door, and slid the security chain in place. A moment later, there was another knock. I opened the now chained door, and before I could speak, he asked again if he could come in and warm up. No, I replied, and attempted to close the door. Before the door could shut, he put his hand out, stopping the door on its hinges.
No.
Isn't that awful? He looked directly in my eyes, still wearing his sunglasses, and said, "Can I at least Can I at least get some ketchup for my apple?"
What? No, you may not. Go home, you weird child.
He screamed, "Fuck that." "Get the hell out of here. My wife is calling the police." He takes a moment to let this information sink in, lowers his glasses, which then revealed his eyes as black as obsidian, and says, "No, you won't be calling anybody." At that moment,
Like, ever again? Or
just on him. At that moment, I force the door closed, lock it, and call out to my wife. She is scared shitless, hiding in the bedroom. All jacked up on adrenaline, I rip the curtains back to look out the window next to the door. He's gone. Absolutely no trace of him. I go out on the patio and check the gate. It's still latched from the inside.
no, it's not, Jessica. Oh my gosh.
That was messed up, I think to myself. As I turn to enter the house, I notice a half-eaten apple lying on the ground. And those are my stories.
Oh my gosh. Those were great, and I won't sleep tonight, so that's awesome.
But isn't that creepy?
Yeah, that's super creepy.
Oh, they're so gross. So creepy.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I just am gonna. Thankfully, my spot on the bed is away from the door, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, mine is not.
Well, this was our 10th episode.
Woo!
Yeah, so we hope you enjoy all of our episodes. And if you would love to do us a favor and go to rate us on any of your podcast listening platforms, we would really appreciate it. We have a few in there now, which we are so thankful for and we love. Any other ratings would be awesome. And a
Yes.
little icing on the cake.
Yes, thanks for everybody that have rated and commented reviews so far. Really appreciate you. We know you can't on Spotify, so if you're able to, you can do it on Apple Podcast.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Google, you can do it. Not sure of the other platforms, but
Yeah.
any way you can help us out would be great.
But if you don't
recommend it.
like us, don't leave a review. No, I'm just kidding.
Do it. It fuels me. No, we really appreciate the support we've had so far. I just want to honestly give a good shout out to my mom.
Aw.
She's been really supportive, and my husband as well. He's been super supportive through this all. So
I love that.
yeah, but no, my mom's been listening since day one, and she listens every Sunday night. She has a bath and she puts us on and listens to us.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
My mom's very supportive, and she listens every Sunday, which is wonderful. So
That's amazing. I suppose I should shout out my mom and husband too, because they are also very supportive. My husband doesn't really listen to podcasts, so he doesn't listen to us too much, but he is very supportive in what we're doing. So that's pretty awesome.
good.
And I
Yeah,
know my mom listens to us sporadically. She is a busy lady. She's taking care of a couple people right now, but I do know she listens to us when she can. So that's awesome.
good. That's awesome. We have really good supportive people. I know a lot of my family and friends are listening, and I really appreciate it. So
We love it and appreciate it.
yeah. So yeah, you can rate and review if you would like.
Woohoo!
We're gonna be starting a TikTok page soon too. So we just thought that would help us get a little bit more listeners, and if you could recommend us, that would be fantastic. We've noticed that we've had a lot more we've had some listeners from around the world, which is really cool.
So cool. I love it when I see a new country pop up. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
I know, it's so much fun. So thank you for everybody that have listened. We hope you enjoy it, and if you don't, just give us an email. Let us know what we could do better.
Yeah.
If you have any like topic suggestions, I know some of my friends and like family have given me topic suggestions, which is really nice. So, yeah, so you can email us at historiesandmysteries 515 at gmail.com. Or we have an Instagram page. It's histories and spelled out mysteries. And on Facebook, it's histories & mysteries. We have a page on there that you can follow us on as well. And I know we've had some new people join that group and also follow us on Instagram. And we really appreciate it. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we look forward to bringing you 2 new stories next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.